Are you looking for an internet talk radio station for your podcast? Look no further. At the helm of Passionate World Talk Radio are two women that want to provide a spot for you and your podcast to be heard. There are many other places for your podcast, but PWTR has the audience. You will not be disappointed. Our station has been on the internet for the past 16 years. Call us for more information. 484-364-1032 or text Jeannie White, station manager at PHECONNECTSHOW@gmail.com for podcast show details. Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain.
Well, hello and welcome. My name is Sheila Wilson. I am a registered nurse. I'm president of Stop Healthcare Violence, and we are a nonprofit group. We have a website, and we are on Facebook, Stop Healthcare Violence and Heal the Healer. I am also a host on Passionate World Talk Radio with Lillian Caldwell, who is the CEO, and Jeannie White, who is the station manager. My show is called Stop Healthcare Violence. Our disclaimer is the views of the guest may not represent the views of the host or the station. My guest today, and I'm very excited about this, is Betty Ann Lauria. She is a certified Emotional Freedom Technique Practitioner with Emotional Freedom Technique International. And I would love you to hear from her. Hello, Betty Ann, and welcome. How are you?
Thank you, Sheila. I'm doing great today. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm honored to have you. This is awesome. What are you interested in tapping?
And that's how everybody knows of EFT is tapping. You know, they may not know what EFT means, but they'll say, "Oh, tapping. Yeah, I heard about that." Kind of weird thing people do. But what happened was,
I made sure I said that you were certified Emotional Freedom Technique, and then I go, "What got you interested in tapping?"
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. I love that you said that because that's how people know it. But yeah, it was quite a few years ago now that I first heard about it when I was listening to a healing summit online. And one of the speakers was someone named Nick Ortner, who was talking about this thing called EFT. And after he explained it, he started doing a demonstration and invited the audience to participate. And we could think about an issue we had and insert our own words into a few rounds of tapping. I just remember being moved to tears at some of the insights that came to me while tapping that day. It was amazing. And so of course I had to try it on my husband. And just from what I learned by watching that one presentation, and he was moved as well with some of the things that he tapped about. So I knew there was something to this, and I was very interested and wanted to learn more. So eventually I found a wonderful teacher, and I began my training. And the rest is history. I'm very passionate about tapping. It's this beautiful system of healing with no side effects, which is pretty cool. It's that's how I got into it anyway. And since then, I've really helped a lot of people using EFT.
So, I mean, is it that easy that anybody can do it?
Yes, up to a point. Anyone could learn how to tap on themselves and use it anytime they want as they are going through the day if something really upsets them, rather than let it stew and find a place in our body to live for a while, because that's what happens. The issues are in the tissues. And so if something's really bothering you during the day, you can go find a quiet place and tap about it. You can even do what I like to call stealth tapping. I didn't make that up, but I love that expression. If you're in the car and you're getting really upset because you're late and there's a traffic jam, you could start tapping while you're sitting in that traffic jam, and it really calms you down. So that's the benefit of tapping, is that you can de-stress just about anything.
Now,
I can go on with it if you want to hear some of the more of the benefits of tapping.
Yes, I'd love to know the benefits. And after you do that, can you possibly kind of talk about how to tap?
Absolutely, I will, because I would love everyone who listens to this to have a little tool, a new tool in their pocket to pull out for self-care, which is so important today, I think. The person that I first heard about EFT with, Nick Ortner, that I mentioned earlier, I just think I'd like to mention that he's the head of an organization called the Tapping Solution, and they have two foundations. One of them is they work with people, the community of Sandy Hook, ever since that terrible shooting there. And they also have a foundation that helps the children of Rwanda after that terrible genocide a few years back. So they do a lot of great work with tapping. But the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because it does release stress. And doctors will tell you that stress is at the bottom of most disease. Emotional issues, physical pain, unpleasant memories. We all know the kind of world we're living in that causes most of us to experience low-level stress all the time. We're constantly feeling it. Just because of our world, all the news input and just the fast-paced lives that we live and what's going on now in the last few years with COVID, it's just really been hard for us. And what happens is the stress hormones, like cortisol, are just pumping through our bodies all the time. And if we don't use those hormones to fight or flee, the way they were meant to be used physically, then they just hang around in our systems, and they can cause problems with our immune system, our digestive system. And, I'm sure that most of our immune system is in our digestive system. So if we have that compromised because of our hormones pumping through our bodies, then it's going to cause a lot of other problems. So the major benefit of tapping is that the stress hormones are released, and you can literally release, they've done studies. Let's see, where do I want to go? Let me just look at this paper I have somewhere written down. There's been a study recently of cortisol levels after a group tapping, and this isn't even a one-on-one, this is with a group of people. After tapping, their cortisol levels went down 40%. That's pretty amazing when you think about that. Dr. Peter Stapleton did that study.
How did I know that?
They do saliva tests before and after.
Wow.
And they can test the cortisol on the saliva. And also, in other tests, they show they do fMRIs before and after, and they show that there actually is changes in the brain after tapping. The last few years, there have been a lot of studies, peer-reviewed studies being done and published in medical journals on EFT. So it's a pretty exciting time to be talking about this topic. And I'm pretty excited about it. And one of the things that, another thing that this Dr. Peter Stapleton worked with is weight reduction and food cravings. And let's see, one research showed that after people tapped on food cravings and weight loss, a year later they were still at their weight goals. And she kept testing them afterwards, just from having the benefits of tapping. And another thing that I know I've mentioned to you before, Sheila, is that the Veterans Administration is recommending, or they have approved, EFT as a therapy for PTSD. And I'm just going to read something aloud that was quoted in the Huffington Post. Emotional freedom techniques have been approved as a generally safe therapy by the U.S. Veterans Administration after reviewing the extensive evidence for the safety and efficacy of EFT. A group of experts in the VA's Integrative Health Coordinating Center published a statement approving EFT and several other complementary and integrative practices for veterans with PTSD. So that's pretty exciting too.
It is. You know, as I said in the introduction, is that I am the president to Stop Healthcare Violence. Now, excuse me, many of the nurses have PTSD from this pandemic. The fact that they didn't have any masks, and they had to wear the same masks all the time. Then they were loaded with chemicals, and they still had to wear them. Excuse me.
Oh.
And they were working 12-hour shifts. They were working just so much, and they had so many patients, and the deaths were so many that, I mean, as a nurse, I've seen a lot of people die, but not numbers of people dying on the same day or the same shift. And these nurses are running around with this PTSD, and I wonder, is there some way that we could do something to have these nurses know more about this and get the word out? You know, if this goes up with the veterans, I mean, the veterans certainly, I mean, what they've seen and what happens afterwards. I know our country isn't doing a great thing about getting them shelters and homes and all of that, but that is amazing. But I don't want to get away from you talking. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to mention that.
I really think something needs to be done for these nurses. My heart goes out to them. I know there was an article in the New York Times, maybe it was about a year ago, just about what you were talking about what happened to nurses and how many of them are very depressed, leaving the job. And I can't imagine what they must have gone through and are still going through with the conditions and the deaths. And I would love to talk to you sometime about that, Sheila, about how we can get this service to the nurses. I don't know. I have to think about that a little bit.
Okay.
Certainly, any nurses that you know of that would benefit and are open to trying it, you can send them to me. I'd be happy to work with them at no charge, because they are doing so much for our community and they've been through so much.
They certainly. Thank you so much. That is really an awesome.
It's the least I could do.
Well,
you know, it's really terrible, especially if you know someone who has passed. You know what that's like, and just imagine multiplying that by 10 times. And I don't know how they can deal with it. So amazing.
Oh, it's a terrible
thing.
It's the
same thing for. It's not the same thing, but also teachers have been under a lot of stress as well, and the students. And there is work being done on EFT and students, especially as I just told you with Sandy Hook. But also they've been doing some studies, and there's a lot of books out there that are available for kids. I'd just like to mention one of them for young kids is something called Gorilla Thumps and Bear Hugs, and it's about tapping with young kids, and it's written by Alex Ortner. My 2-year-old granddaughter is using EFT. She has some food allergies. Yeah, it's really cool. She has some food allergies, and my daughter-in-law has taught her how to tap, and so she does. She'll start tapping all by herself after she eats, to release any stress that might be causing those food allergies. And I really think it's helping her. So, and then another book for teenagers is called EFT for Teens by Peta Stapleton. And she's the one who's been doing a lot of research. She's really well known in the field for doing so much research. So I would definitely say to look those up for kids. I wish they're doing a lot of work with kids from Australia. So I'd like to see it increased in this country as well. We need to catch up, you know.
Right.
And she's the one that noticed the brain changes in adults who are overweight after using EFT, and that was using an fMRI. So she's also doing research on healthy food choices and physical activity with 14-year-olds. And difficulties in, having fear and difficulties in test results for teens. And there's so many things that teenagers are worried about today. So EFT just can't do anything but help. I like to say that it's, and I already mentioned it's like acupuncture without the needles. And it's like some of the best drugs out there, but it's not a drug, and so there's no side effects. So it's a wonderful tool. You can tell I'm really excited about it, but I am. And if you would like, one more thing that I just found out this morning that I wanted to mention is this is from an article that is being published by an offshoot of the Lancet group. I think a lot of people in the medical field know of Lancet.
Yeah.
They have a journal called eClinica Medicine, and it's open. It has open access, so anyone could find it if you just look it up online. Well, they have a study that shows cancer patients after treatment were studied in a randomized, waitlist-controlled trial. And EFT has been shown to be a safe and effective way to improve cancer-related cognitive impairment. After people survive from cancer, they have been known to suffer from cognitive impairment. And a lot of it is due to stress and fear, the fear of perhaps getting it again, and the stress of what it has done to their lives, and just also the physical wear and tear of whatever their treatment was causes impairment, cognitive impairment. And so EFT has now been shown to help with that. That, to me, is an amazing finding, and I'm very excited to be able to share that with you today.
That is absolutely terrific. Anything to help with the cancer patients. And so true that afterwards, and they're so frightened. That
they are.
I'm not sure what I would do if, I was diagnosed with cancer and then going through it, and am I going to be okay? And then that is fantastic to have tapping for that.
It really is.
School kids, cancer patients, veterans, that's a lot. That's a lot of studies have been done. That is terrific.
A lot of studies. I know. And I really think that because we know that most dis-ease is caused by stress, then there are so many things that can be helped by EFT. And as I think you asked me earlier, is this something that someone can do on their own? And so, yes, as I said, you can do it on your own for minor things that happen during the day, or not even minor, but if you're having you know how we tend to brood on things that really bother us. Well, instead of just brooding, you can tap about it, and you can really get some work done that way. Some bigger issues, it's better to contact a practitioner, because what a practitioner can do is peel away the layers and get to the root of what might be causing this feeling. Sometimes it's a buried memory or something like that, or maybe the first time somebody said something to you and it triggers forever until we can clear that away by tapping through it. Maybe I should say a quick thing about how science, not to get too far into the science, but how tapping actually works, why it's so effective, is that we are tapping on meridian endpoints, and meridians are those energy systems that in Chinese medicine, they've known about them for thousands of years, but Western medicine is now beginning to discover these as well. And there's actual energy that flows through these meridians. So we've got one set on one side and another set on the other side. They're pretty much symmetrical, and they're connected to all our organs and muscles. And sometimes there's blockages in them. And when we tap, and it's the same thing as when you go to an acupuncturist, they put the needles on the little endpoints, which clears the blockage. What we're doing is tapping. And as you tap, you're sending a signal to the amygdala in your brain, and that's part of the brain, which I'm sure you know, Sheila, is the center of our fight-flight system, that it alerts the body that there is a danger happening, and it alerts the body to start pumping out those hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, etc. And that, in turn, gets all the energy out to our extremities so that we can run or fight or do whatever we need to do. In our daily stresses, when we tap on a stressor, we don't have to, it's not a clear and present danger. It's not like someone's beating us up or anything. We are just suffering from a stress that we're thinking about. When we tap on those points, we're sending a message to the amygdala that says, this is not a clear or present danger. You can stand down and we can be calm about this situation. And that's how it works. And I'm really simplifying it because I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but that is essentially how it works.
Can you possibly talk us through a tapping session?
I would love to. Sure. I can tell you about it. I will describe where the points are. I know that my website, which I'll mention again, mariposaeft.com. There is a chart. Sure, Mariposa, that's MARIPOSA. And it's Spanish for butterfly because I believe that with EFT, you can transform yourself by de-stressing. And we know that butterflies are a symbol for transformation. So that's where I got my name for my business. So that's mariposaeft.com.
Good.
And there's a chart on my website with the points. You might be putting one on your blog. I sent you a copy of that chart, so maybe it'll be on your blog. But even so, I'll describe them right now. And it might be helpful if we actually tap about something real while I'm explaining the points to you. So I'll put it out there that maybe we could tap about how we feel about this COVID thing that's been going on for 2 years.
Oh,
is that
sure.
a good idea?
Yeah.
All right. So I would ask people, when you think about COVID, how do you feel? And I think a lot of people have different emotions. Maybe they're fearful. Maybe they're angry. They might be worried. They might be grieving. So think of one of those things. Put that idea in your mind. I'm going to use the word fear or fearful, but you, as we're tapping, anyone who's listening and wants to tap along, you insert whatever you're feeling. Okay, you'll see what I mean when we get started. And then I'm just going to ask you, well, if you're feeling fearful or threatened right now by the disease, or if you're feeling angry, just take a moment and scan your body and see where you're feeling that emotion. Sometimes we really do feel emotions in our stomach, in our throat, or head. Sometimes we feel it in our solar plexus area, which is like right beneath the breastbone there, which is the upper part of our stomach, really. So just kind of scan your body, see where you might be feeling that, and make a special note of that. And then I would also ask you to think about, are you feeling this emotion towards or for anyone? Like if you're angry, who are you angry with? Or if you're sad, what are you sad about, or who are you sad about? Or if you're fearful, who are you worried about? And just keep those three things in mind: how you're feeling, what's your emotion, where are you feeling it in your body, and who you might be feeling it for. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how intense are you feeling that? 10 being the most intense, and 0 being not intense at all. And usually it's the first number that occurs to you. And that's just so we have a little bit of a marker for how you might feel afterwards when we do a couple of rounds of tapping. And you might want to, if you have a pencil handy, you could jot that number down. All right? So I'm going to start by showing you the first point, or telling you, which is called the karate chop point, or sometimes called sleight of hand. And you can do this on either hand, but you tap with 3 fingers just below the pinky. Okay? And we say something called the setup statement, and that means what we're doing is we're introducing the topic to our brain. We're connecting with our amygdala and saying, this is what I'm tapping about right now, okay? So I'm going to say there's 2 parts to it. It's an even though phrase, and then after that part, it's I deeply and completely accept myself. Okay? Here we go. Okay. And you can repeat after me, and you can insert your emotion. So even though I'm feeling kind of fearful about COVID.
Even though I'm feeling kind of angry about COVID.
Okay. I deeply and completely accept myself.
I completely what? Accept myself.
Deeply and accept myself, yes. And even though I'm feeling fearful about this COVID.
Even though I'm feeling kind of angry about this COVID.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
And we're tapping the whole time on our hand. And one more time, we say it 3 times, even though I'm feeling a little fearful about this COVID threat.
Even though I'm feeling angry about this COVID.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
All right, so now we're going to do a round of tapping. And the first point is right where your eyebrow begins. And you could do your right eyebrow, your left eyebrow, or both of them. And it's right where it begins on at the bridge of your nose. Okay, so tapping there, this COVID threat. Repeat after me.
Okay.
Yes. And then sliding along your eyebrow to the side of the eye, right at the end of the eyebrow, tapping there. It's making me feel fearful.
It's making me feel angry.
Under the eye, staying on that bone that goes around your eye, tapping under the eye. I fear for my family and my friends. And you can say, I'm angry at...
I'm angry at the confusion of what's going on with the vaccines.
Okay. Right. Under the nose, and I'm feeling this in my gut.
Oh, I'm feeling that in my gut.
Okay. And now the next point is just below the lip and above the chin, and that little crease in there, tapping there. It's affecting my life.
It's affecting a good portion of my life.
Okay. And now moving to the collarbone point, which if you find the little U at your sternum and go down about 1.5 inches and to the right or the left or even both, tapping there.
Okay.
A little indentation. I'm feeling this fear.
I'm feeling this anger.
And under the arm, which is right about 4 inches from the armpit, either arm, I'm fearful.
I'm angry.
I'm fearful for others and angry for others.
I'm angry for others too.
And top of the head, feeling fearful.
Feeling angry.
Okay, stop tapping for a moment and take a deep breath. Okay. And now at this point, you would scan your body and you would ask yourself so Sheila, you would ask yourself, how angry am I feeling right now? When I say this COVID makes me angry, how angry are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
I think a constant anger is maybe a 4.
And what was the number you had before?
Oh, when you first started and you were talking about it, and it was probably up to a 7.
Okay, so it went down a little bit for you. I just want to put it out there that sometimes after a round of tapping, people's stress levels go up a little bit. And I know that sounds counterintuitive because we're trying to get their stress down, but that's really okay because what it shows is that we're moving the energy. And sometimes when you tune into an issue that you haven't really thought much about, but it's been like simmering below the surface, sometimes you bring it out to the surface and you feel it even more strongly. And that's all right because now we're really ready to tap on it and tap it down and deal with it. But I'm glad to hear that yours went down a little bit. So let's do another quick round of tapping. We don't have to do the setup statement, but we'll start on the eyebrow point, and I'm going to say this remaining fear, and you can say this remaining anger. So on the eyebrow point.
All right.
This remaining fear.
This remaining anger.
Side of the eye. This remaining fear.
This remaining anger.
Under the eye. I'm still feeling it in my gut.
I'm still feeling it in my gut.
Under the nose. This remaining fear.
This remaining anger.
The chin point. I'm worried about.
I'm worried about.
Blank, and you can fill someone in there. Like I might say, I'm worried about my family.
Oh. I'm worried about the patients.
Okay. Collarbone. This remaining fear.
This remaining fear.
Under the arm. It's still hovering around.
Still hovering around.
Top of the head, this fear about COVID.
This fear about COVID.
Okay, take a deep breath. Okay, and then you would scan your body again. Sometimes if you're feeling it in your gut or your head or somewhere, it might have moved. Sometimes it moves to a different part of the body, and that's always good to notice. And the other thing that when I'm working with a client one-on-one, I'll ask them, did anything occur to you while we were tapping? Any thoughts or any memories or anything come up for you? Did anything come up for you, Sheila?
Well, as a matter of fact, it's the anger is, I am not working with bedside nursing with the patients with COVID, but I know a lot of nurses and how they're feeling about people coming in that are sick and they have COVID and they haven't got the vaccine. And they feel that, I am forced to get the nurses are forced to get the vaccine if they want to work. Now, so now a patient comes in, they didn't have the vaccine, so are they going to, even though they got the vaccine, you want me to take care of you, and you didn't even take care of, getting a vaccine.
No. Exactly.
And it's like when the flu season came, you had a choice: either wear a mask or get the shot. And now it's like they're going to get fired if they don't get the vaccine, and a lot of people don't want the vaccine. And there's so much confusion about this. And many people that have had the vaccine even got COVID. And so it's
very confusing, and we're getting lots of conflicting information. And people who are listening to this, maybe they chose an emotion of confusion or overwhelm or who do I believe kind of thing, and that could be tapped about. But if I were working, if we were doing a session right now, Sheila, I would continue with you working on that anger about people who don't get vaccinated and versus people who are forced to get vaccinated and forced to work with those who aren't. There's a lot of anger behind that. And what that does with tapping is the more specific we get about what we're feeling, the better it works. And so we would continue tapping on that, this anger about those who are not vaccinated. Even though I have this anger about those who are not vaccinated being forced on those who are vaccinated and have to work with them because they're nurses, that's what, even though I have the anger towards that situation, I deeply and completely accept myself. And so what this would do is work on your anger about it, because I certainly understand that, and anyone would in your situation, because it's so confusing. Everything is confusing, and it seems unfair that some people are being held to a higher standard and others just, can walk around free as a bird infecting other people. It's a crazy world. And so tapping on it is one answer to dealing with it. So thank you for sharing that. And the reason why I asked you if you had any thoughts is because I also wanted to make the point that when we tap, we are not just reaching the amygdala in the brain, but we're also tapping into our subconscious. Our subconscious mind, it's like what we know that we're thinking is like the tip of the iceberg. The rest of it is beneath the surface, our subconscious mind. We don't know what's going on down there, but it's running the show for us for most of it, most of our lives. I mean, think about the last time. Have you ever driven somewhere, in a road that you drive all the time, and you reached your destination and you thought to yourself, how the heck did I get here? I don't even remember driving here.
Yes,
right?
I have.
That's an example of what your subconscious mind is doing. It's running your life for you. It has all these tapes in there that have been recorded since you were born. And so when we tap, we can tap into that. And that's why sometimes people have little memories that they never thought of before. Some people even get little visions. But you thought of, you were thinking about specifically what makes you angry about this situation. And that's excellent, because then we would pick up the tapping from there. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Confusing.
No, it makes a lot of sense, because when I hear the nurses talk, and I certainly, the things that people don't know, what has been happening in the hospitals and nursing homes and everything else, because they don't work there, and what these nurses have gone through. And it just seemed right from the very beginning that they didn't have enough personal protection. Granted, they had the same mask for months,
right.
The N95s, and then the nurses went out and were making masks, and then the hospital said, no, you can't wear them, they aren't standard. They didn't have anything else that was standard. I mean, it's just, and now they're forcing everybody to get the vaccine. People that have probably never even had a flu shot or anything. And is that okay? And of course, those people run the hospitals. They can do whatever they want. But, the nurse that has been around for 35 years is now being told that she'll get fired if she doesn't get the vaccine. And what about the vaccine doesn't work on everybody? Some nurses or some other people get the vaccine and they don't feel well about it. And it's very confusing.
I can see that's how you're feeling about it, and I understand. Do you think we should spend a round of tapping on that right now?
Well, yeah, we could do it again. And
because it really is confusing, and we all have our feelings about how we feel about the vaccine. For the most part, we have seen that it's been working, but there have been instances where, and we've all heard of people who have had what they call breakthrough cases. So yeah, you wonder. We're all wondering. We don't know. No one really knows how this is all going to pan out. So we're all definitely in a state of limbo right now.
Right. But the other thing that we've all kind of talked about is, when did we ever get paid to get the vaccine. And that's what made it so confusing, is that we've had a lot of vaccines in our life, but I was never offered money to take the vaccine, and that was kind of scary. But it is science.
Are they doing that now?
Not now, but when it first started, there was one group of people said, "Oh, if you come in and get a vaccine, we're going to give you a beer." And then another one was saying that they're going to get $50 if they come in and get a vaccine. And then there was the college thing, that they would pay the scholarships and all that. And you go, now, think about that. Why would somebody do that? But you know what? Right. We're getting a little bit off the subject there, but so those are little things in my head, Betty Ann.
Now, and I'll just say that all the things that you're bringing up in EFT, they're called aspects. And what we do is we try and tap about as many aspects as possible. So obviously we don't have time to do that on this call, but I'll just mention that if we were going to do them, I'm hearing aspects of being confused about the rules. I'm hearing aspects of unfairness because of how some people are being forced and others aren't. I'm hearing another aspect about uncertainty about when and why these rules sort of change for some people. That's what happens when you're working with someone and they're talking about an issue. We think it's just a simple issue, and then what happens is there are many different aspects to it, and we need to tap on all of those, and then it becomes a lot better when we do more specific tapping. Right now what we're doing is more general tapping just because it's the situation that we're in and we're trying to give people an idea of what EFT is. But I'm so glad you brought up all those different aspects, because it shows what can happen when you think you're just tapping about one topic and it breaks down into many smaller topics.
It does, doesn't it? I really did not expect that, Betty Ann.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. I mean, that's what happens with EFT. That really is. But for people who might be listening and we're tapping, I would like to do just one more round of tapping where we kind of bring it to a point of, I'm not going to say that we solved everyone's emotions about COVID, but a place where maybe we can be calm, a little bit calmer about it, and know that perhaps they'll continue tapping on their own on the thing that bothers them most about tapping. Because what we usually do in tapping is when we're working with someone, we keep tapping on the thing that's bothering them. And some people might say, well, gee whiz, you're tapping on the negative. Why are you doing that? Shouldn't we be tapping in positive things? And the truth is, you have to tell the truth about how you're feeling at any given moment. And that's when we can deal with it. We have to speak the truth about our feelings. And then while we're tapping, you might notice in the client that they might, when I say to them, okay, did anything come up for you? They might come up with a positive statement on their own, like, you know what, I was just thinking that maybe I should be looking at this a little differently. And then that's the signal to the practitioner that it's time to turn things around into a more positive note, because the person has had a shift in the way they think about what's been bothering them. And so even though I don't know if anyone listening has had a cognitive shift, or if you have, and I probably not, I would say there's a lot of things we could tap about. But I think just for the benefit of everyone listening, that we might want to just turn it a little bit positive by using a statement called "the truth is." There's a lot of different tapping methods that we use, and one of them, it incorporates this phrase, "the truth is." And I would say something like, even though I'm still feeling fearful right now about COVID, the truth is I'm doing all I can. Something like that. And you could insert anger and see how it goes. You want to try that? I don't know how much more time we have on the call.
We actually don't have too much time, but I think one more time of tapping would be fine.
Great. Okay, so let's try that. So tapping, as we remember on the karate chop point, you're going to say, even though I'm still feeling fearful right now.
Even though I'm still feeling fearful right now.
The truth is, I'm doing all I can.
The truth is, I'm feeling all I can.
I'm doing all I can.
Or doing all I can.
Yeah. So even though I'm still feeling fearful, and you could say angry if you're still feeling a little angry.
No, I'll do the positive. Just repeat that again.
So even though I'm still feeling a little fearful about COVID.
Even though I'm still feeling a little fearful about COVID.
The truth is, I know that fear and worry won't help.
I know that fear and worry won't help.
Even though I'm still feeling kind of fearful about COVID.
Even though I'm still feeling a little fearful about COVID.
The truth is, I forgive myself and anyone else involved.
I forgive myself and anyone else involved.
Now, if I were working with you, one-on-one right now, Sheila, I would say, does that statement feel true to you? And if it doesn't, we'll change it, because it's very important to say the words that are more truthful for the client. So we would change them in that case if it didn't feel right. And then, of course, we always end up with, and I deeply and completely accept myself.
And I completely accept myself. Completely and what?
Deeply.
Okay. Deeply.
All right. That's fine. The other thing about tapping is that it's very forgiving, and the words that you use are not as important as what's going on in your head, what you're feeling, and that you keep tapping. So don't worry too much about the words. But anyway, starting on the eyebrow point, we'll say, I'm doing all I can.
I'm doing all I can.
Side of the eye, I'm taking good care of myself.
I'm taking good care of myself.
Under the eye, fear and worry won't help.
Fear and worry won't help. That's true.
Under the nose, and I'm taking good care of others.
Taking good care of others.
Collarbone, I'm sending out my love to others.
I'm sending out my love to others.
Under the arm, I'm trying to forgive people.
I'm trying to forgive people.
Top of the head, and I forgive myself and anyone else involved.
I forgive myself and anyone else involved.
Okay.
That was cool.
Did you like that? Take a deep breath. And so that's what we try and do towards the end of a session when we feel that the client has made a shift in their attitude or their perception towards the topic. And that's always a really nice thing to do. But once again, if at the end of the session we haven't reached that point, what we do is we put a nice closure around it with the idea that we will continue working on this. And your brain will continue working on this between that time and maybe the next time that you meet with your practitioner. It actually does. EFT continues working like over the next few days. You may not notice a shift right away, but the next day you might think about the situation you were upset about and go, I don't feel so bad about that now.
All right. Well, that sounds great. This has been a great session, Betty Ann. And I'm sorry that the time went by so fast, but I want to thank you for coming on and sharing all of the information. I'm absolutely amazed at the cancer study, the vet study, all of the stuff that has been going on, because it's so important. But maybe you'll come back again and share some more and do another tapping session.
I'd love to. I would love to do that. And the next time I do a Zoom demo I'll make sure that you know so you can get the word out.
Okay. Well, thank you again for coming in, and thank you for all that will be listening. I'm signing off for now. Once again, thank you.
Are you looking for an internet talk radio station for your podcast? Look no further. At the helm of Passionate World Talk Radio are two women that want to provide a spot for you and your podcast to be heard. There are many other places for your podcast, but PWTR has the audience. You will not be disappointed. Our station has been on the internet for the past 16 years. Call us for more information. 484-364-1032 or text Jeannie White, Station Manager at PHECONNECTSHOW@gmail.com for podcast show details. Thank you for listening to Passionate World Talk Radio. You can listen to this program all over again by going over to https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. You can also hear it on Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Alexa, AMFM247.com every Tuesday evening between 8 and 9 p.m. YouTube, Facebook, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and all the other podcast directories one can find on the internet.